My name is Amara Whitfield. I'm 34 years old, and last month, my parents withdrew $530,000 from an account I'd been building for 10 years. Money I'd saved for my children's future. Money I earned through sacrifice, discipline, and countless nights when I chose saving over living. When I asked them why, they just smiled. My father grinned at me like he'd just told a clever joke. "Your brother's getting married, Amara. He needs a new house, a proper home to start his family. He's carrying on the Whitfield name. Surely you understand that." My mother's smile was softer, more patronizing. "You don't have children, sweetheart. You're not even dating anyone seriously. Gavin is finally settling down. This is a good thing. Be happy for him." My brother, Gavin, he just smirked. That same smirk he's worn since childhood whenever he got away with something. "Thanks for understanding, sis. You've always been the responsible one. The stable one. You'll earn it back. You always do." Even my Uncle Dorian, who was visiting that week, he chuckled from his armchair, whiskey in hand. "A girl like you wouldn't know how to handle that kind of money anyway. At least now it's going somewhere useful." I stood there in their living room, surrounded by the people who were supposed to love me, and I said nothing for a long moment. The silence stretched. They watched me, waiting for me to break down, to scream, to cry, to beg them to reconsider. Instead, I smiled, because the account they'd emptied, the one they'd drained down to nothing, wasn't the one holding my real savings. But before I tell you how this story really begins, before I take you through every painful moment that led to that day, I need you to do something for me. Please, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Because what I'm about to share with you is deeply personal. It's raw, it's real, and I need to know I'm not alone in feeling what I felt. Now, let me take you back. Let me show you how I got here. I need you to understand something about my family before we go any further. I need you to see the foundation that cracked long before that $530,000 disappeared. I'm a senior investment analyst at a financial firm in Manhattan. I've been working in finance since I graduated college at 22. I started my first real job at 23, and by 24, I began saving seriously. Not just for retirement, not just for emergencies, but for something specific. Something sacred to me, my future children's education and opportunities. I know that might sound strange to some of you. Saving for children I didn't even have yet. But I grew up watching my parents struggle. I watched them sacrifice. I watched them work themselves to exhaustion just to keep our family afloat. And I promised myself that when I had children, they would never feel that weight. They would never wonder if they could afford college, or if pursuing their dreams meant bankrupting their family. So I saved. God, did I save. Every bonus I received went straight into that account. Every tax return, every raise. I lived in a studio apartment when I could afford a one-bedroom. I brought lunch from home every single day for years. I wore the same professional wardrobe season after season, getting pieces altered and cleaned instead of buying new ones. I skipped vacations. I declined brunches and dinners out with friends more times than I can count. I dated less because dating costs money, and every dollar I spent on myself felt like a dollar stolen from my children's future. My coworkers thought I was obsessive. My friends called me too serious. But I didn't care. I had a goal. I had a vision. And I was building toward it with everything I had. For 10 years, I poured everything into that account. 10 years of discipline. 10 years of sacrifice. 10 years of choosing future security over present comfort. And through all of it, my family watched. My father, Reginald Whitfield, he's 63 now. He's a proud man. The kind of proud that comes from believing your way is the only way. He grew up in a generation where men were providers, where sons carried the family name forward, where daughters were temporary. You raised them, loved them, and then they became someone else's responsibility when they married. He never said it outright, not in those exact words, but I felt it my entire life. Every achievement I earned, every promotion I received, every accomplishment I shared with him was met with the same response. "That's good, Amara. But when are you going to settle down? When are you going to find a good man and start a family?" As if my career, my success, my life meant nothing without a husband to validate it. My mother, Corinne, she's 59, and she's different from my father, but not in any way that ever helped me. Where my father is direct and blunt, my mother is subtle and suffocating. She's image-obsessed. Everything is about how things look, how things appear to others, how the family is perceived. She's the kind of woman who can say the cruelest things with the sweetest smile. She can cut you down to nothing and make it sound like advice, make it sound like love. Amara, sweetheart, you're getting older. You should think about Botox just preventatively. You understand. Amara, darling, maybe if you smiled more at company events, people would find you more approachable. Men like warm women. Amara, honey, I'm just worried about you. You work so hard, but what's it all for if you're alone? Every conversation was a reminder that I wasn't enough, that I was somehow failing at being a woman because I chose career stability over rushing into marriage. And then there's Gavin, my younger brother, 29 years old and still figuring out what he wants to be when he grows up. Gavin is charming, I'll give him that. He's always known exactly what to say to make people like him, to make them forgive him, to make them open their wallets for him. He's had 7 different jobs in the past 5 years. 7. Each time, he quits because the work is beneath him, or because his boss doesn't appreciate his potential, or because he's pursuing a new opportunity that's really going to take off. None of them ever take off. But our parents never see it that way. To them, Gavin is just trying to find himself. He's exploring. He's learning. He's a dreamer with potential. When I was his age, I was already 5 years into my career, already promoted twice, already saving aggressively. But I was never celebrated for it. I was too serious. I was missing out on life. I was going to regret working so hard when I'm older and alone. Gavin, though? Gavin could do no wrong. He totaled his car. Dad bought him a new one. He racked up credit card debt. Mom paid it off. He needed money for business expenses for whatever new venture he was pretending to launch. They handed it over without question. And me? I was the stable one, the responsible one, the one who didn't need help because I had my life together. Do you know how lonely it is to be the stable one? To be so reliable that people forget you're human? To be so strong that they never think you might need support too? I was the daughter they called when they needed something. When the mortgage was tight, I helped. When my father's car needed expensive repairs, I covered it. When my mother wanted to redecorate the living room, I contributed. But when I called them, when I needed advice, or comfort, or just someone to listen, I was busy. They were tired. They'd call me back later. They rarely did. This is the family I come from. These are the people who raised me, who shaped me, who were supposed to love me unconditionally. And for 10 years, I saved that money every dollar a small act of hope, thinking that maybe, just maybe, when I finally had children, when I could show them the future I'd built, my parents would finally see me, finally celebrate me, finally understand that I wasn't cold or distant or too focused on money. I was just trying to build something that would last. I thought I was building a future for my children. I didn't know I was setting a trap for myself. It was a Tuesday when everything shattered. I remember the day clearly because Tuesdays were usually my planning days. I'd spend the morning analyzing portfolios, the afternoon in meetings, and the evening reviewing personal finances. It was routine, predictable, safe. I had decided, after years of watching that account grow, that it was time to move the money into a trust. A proper legal structure that would protect it, grow it more efficiently, and ensure that when I did have children, the money would be untouchable by anyone but them. I logged into my personal banking app during my lunch break. I'd done this hundreds of times before. It was muscle memory. Click the app, enter my password, navigate to savings. The screen loaded, and my entire world stopped. Balance, $11,472. I blinked. I refreshed the page. I closed the app and opened it again. $11,472. That couldn't be right. That couldn't be real. Last time I'd checked, 3 weeks ago, the balance was $541,000 and change. I'd been waiting for a quarterly bonus to deposit before initiating the trust transfer. My hands started shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, in my ears, in my chest, like it was trying to break through my ribs. I stood up from my desk, walked to an empty conference room, and called the bank. The hold music felt like it lasted hours. Every second that passed, my mind raced through possibilities. Identity theft, banking error, some kind of technical glitch. It had to be a mistake. It had to be. Thank you for holding. This is Marcus. How can I help you today? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Yes, hi. I'm calling about my savings account ending in 472. I'm seeing a balance that doesn't match my records. Can you help me understand what happened? Of course, ma'am. Let me pull up your account. Can you verify your full name and date of birth for security purposes? I went through the verification. Each question felt like wading through mud. Okay, Miss Whitfield, I'm looking at your account now. I see you're calling about the balance. What specific transaction did you want to review? All of them. I'm showing only $11,000 in an account that should have over $500,000. Where did my money go? There was a pause. I heard typing. I see. Miss Whitfield, there was a large withdrawal made on your account 8 days ago. $529,218. The transaction was authorized with proper identification and account credentials. The room tilted. I grabbed the edge of the conference table to steady myself. That's not possible. I didn't authorize any withdrawal. I didn't make any withdrawal. Who authorized it? More typing. Another pause that felt eternal. The withdrawal was made in person at our branch location on Madison Avenue. The person who made the withdrawal was, let me verify, Corinne Whitfield. She had proper identification and joint account authorization. Corinne Whitfield, my mother. My mother's name coming through that phone, through that stranger's voice. In connection with my missing money, it wasn't real. It couldn't be real. That's a mistake, I heard myself say. She doesn't have access to that account. That's my personal savings account. I'm showing here, ma'am, that Corinne Whitfield was added as a joint account holder on this savings account in, let me see, approximately 6 years ago. Would you like me to send you the documentation we have on file? 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I was 28. I was living in my first one-bedroom apartment. I was building my career, and my mother had called me, crying, saying she needed help with her credit. She said she was trying to build her score back up after some financial mistakes. She asked if I could add her as an authorized user on one of my accounts, just temporarily, just to help her rebuild. She said she'd never use it. She said she just needed the account history to show on her credit report. I was trying to help. I was trying to be a good daughter. And I'd completely forgotten about it. The account had been growing, untouched, unmonitored, except for my regular deposits and quarterly balance checks. I never thought to review the account details. Never thought to check who had access. Why would I? She was my mother. Miss Whitfield, are you still there? Yes, I'm here. Would you like to file a dispute? We can begin an investigation if you believe the transaction was made without your knowledge. Yes, start the investigation. Send me everything you have, every document, every signature, every piece of information about that withdrawal. Of course. I'm going to transfer you to our fraud department now. The fraud department. The word felt obscene. Fraud was something strangers committed. Fraud was identity theft and scams and criminals. Fraud wasn't your mother walking into a bank branch with your shared account information and withdrawing your entire life savings. But that's exactly what it was. I spent 2 hours on the phone that afternoon. 2 hours explaining, verifying, requesting documentation. 2 hours living in a nightmare that felt increasingly real with every minute that passed. When I finally hung up, I sat in that empty conference room and let myself feel it. The betrayal, the violation, the absolute gutting realization that the people I trusted most in this world had stolen from me. Not borrowed. Stolen. Because borrowing requires asking. Borrowing requires agreement. Borrowing requires intention to return. What they did was theft dressed up in family obligation. In that moment, staring at my phone with my bank's fraud department case number glowing on the screen, I realized something that broke me more than the money ever could. The people I loved most had stolen the future I'd worked my whole life for, and they'd smiled while they did it. I didn't call them. I didn't text. I got in my car after work and I drove to my parents' house in Westchester. The whole drive, 43 minutes of highway and suburban streets, I felt like I was floating outside my body. Like this was happening to someone else and I was just watching. The sun was setting when I pulled into their driveway. Golden hour. The light made everything look soft and beautiful and perfect. Their house, the one I'd helped them keep when they fell behind on the mortgage 3 years ago, looked peaceful, inviting. I could hear voices and laughter from inside as I walked up to the front door. I didn't knock. I still had a key. I'd had a key my entire adult life because family doesn't knock, my mother always said. I walked in. The living room was full. My father was sitting in his usual armchair, a beer in hand. My mother was on the sofa, wineglass on the table beside her. Gavin was sprawled in the other chair, looking at his phone and laughing at something. And my uncle Dorian was there too, visiting from Boston, perched on the ottoman with his whiskey. They were celebrating something. The energy in the room was light, jovial, happy. They didn't even notice me at first. Gavin was telling some story about a restaurant he'd gone to, something about a date that went wrong, and they were all laughing. My mother's laugh was bright and genuine in a way I hadn't heard in years. Then my father looked up and saw me standing in the doorway. The laughter died. "Amara," he said, surprise in his voice. "We didn't know you were coming by." I didn't respond immediately. I just looked at each of them. My father, still holding his beer. My mother, her hand frozen, reaching for her wineglass. Gavin, looking up from his phone with that familiar expression of mild annoyance that I was interrupting. My uncle, watching me with curiosity. "Where's my money?" The words came out calmer than I felt. Each syllable was clear, controlled, deliberate. My father set his beer down slowly. "Amara, why don't you sit down and we can talk about this like adults?" I am talking like an adult. I'm standing here asking a very simple question. Where is the $530,000 that was in my savings account? My mother spoke up then, her voice taking on that placating tone she uses when she's about to explain something to me, like I'm a child who doesn't understand how the world works. "Sweetheart, we were going to tell you. We were planning to sit you down and explain everything this weekend. We handled it. We took care of something important." Handled it? Took care of it? You stole over $500,000 from me and you handled it? My father stood up then. His full height, his broad shoulders, the posture he takes when he's about to lay down the law in his house. "Watch your tone, Amara. Nobody stole anything. That money is going somewhere. It's needed." "Needed where? Needed by whom?" Gavin spoke up, setting his phone down. "By me, actually. I'm getting married, sis. Elena and I, we're making it official. And we need a house. A real house. Not some apartment or condo. A house to start our family in." I turned to look at him. My brother. My baby brother who I used to protect on the playground. Who I used to help with homework. Who I used to defend to our parents when he got in trouble. "You're getting married. Congratulations. And you need a house. Great. So you took my money. Money I saved for 10 years. Money I sacrificed for. Money that was supposed to secure my future children's education." He shrugged, like it was nothing, like I was being dramatic. "Yeah, well, here's the thing. You don't have kids, Amara. You're not even close to having kids. You're not even dating anyone. And I'm actually starting a family now. The money's going to better use." My mother jumped in, her voice soothing and patronizing. "And Amara, honey, you have a good job, a very good job. You make excellent money. You'll earn it back. But your brother, he's finally settling down. He's finally taking his life seriously. This is a good thing. Be happy for him." "Be happy for him," I repeated, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Be happy that my family stole from me to fund my brother's lifestyle. My father stepped forward, his voice hard now. "It's not stealing. Your brother is carrying on the Whitfield name. He's starting a family. A real family. He's going to have children who will carry our legacy forward. That's worth investing in. That's worth supporting. And what am I doing? What have I been doing for 10 years? You've been working," my father said simply. "You've been building a career. That's fine. That's admirable. But Gavin is building a family. He's going to have sons, Amara. Sons who will carry our name. Can you say the same?" The room fell silent after that. The implication hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. My Uncle Dorian, who had been watching this exchange with dark amusement, let out a low chuckle. Come on, Reg, you can't be surprised she's upset. But honestly, Amara, what were you going to do with all that money anyway? A girl like you, unmarried, no kids, probably never will at this rate. You wouldn't know how to handle that kind of money. At least now it's going somewhere useful. To family, to the future. I looked at him, at this man who I'd known my entire life, who used to give me birthday cards with $20 bills inside, who I thought cared about me, at least a little. A girl like me, I said softly. He nodded, taking a sip of his whiskey. You know what I mean. I did know what he meant. I understood perfectly. A girl like me meant a woman who prioritized her career. A woman who didn't conform to their expectations. A woman who didn't need a man to define her worth. A woman who threatened their traditional values simply by existing and succeeding. I looked at each of them again. My father, standing there self-righteous and proud, convinced he'd done the right thing. My mother, already reaching for her wineglass again, the matter settled in her mind. Gavin, picking his phone back up, clearly done with this conversation. My uncle, smirking behind his whiskey. They weren't sorry. They didn't feel guilty. They thought they were right. They thought they'd outsmarted me, outmaneuvered me, put the money to better use than I ever could. The anger I'd been holding back, the rage that had been building in my chest since that phone call with the bank, it suddenly crystallized into something cold, something clear. I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It wasn't friendly. It was the smile of someone who just realized they're playing chess while everyone else thought it was checkers. You really think you outsmarted me? My father frowned. What? You really think you got away with this? You really think you just stole $500,000 from me and there won't be consequences? Gavin laughed. What are you going to do, Amara? Sue your own family? Take us to court? Over money you'll just earn back anyway? Come on, be realistic. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I saw him clearly for the first time in years. Not my little brother who needed protecting. Not the charming golden child who was just figuring things out. I saw an entitled man who believed the world owed him success without effort, who believed family meant taking whatever you wanted without asking, who believed his sister's sacrifice meant nothing compared to his dreams. You're right, Gavin, I said quietly. I am the responsible one. I've always been the responsible one. And responsible people, we plan ahead. We protect our assets. We think about contingencies. My mother set her wineglass down, concern creeping into her expression. Amara, what are you saying? I looked at her, at this woman who gave birth to me, who raised me, who I thought loved me, and I felt nothing but cold clarity. I'm saying that the account you drained wasn't my real savings, Mother. It was a decoy. The room went very still. What do you mean a decoy? My father asked slowly. I mean exactly what I said. That account, the one with joint access that you added yourself to 6 years ago, Mom, I haven't been putting my real money there for almost 4 years. I've been moving the majority of my savings into a trust fund. A trust that only has my name on it. A trust that's legally protected and completely untouchable by anyone but me. I watched their faces change. Watched confusion become understanding. Watched understanding become panic. 4 years ago, I started suspecting that something like this might happen. Not this exactly, but I knew Gavin would need something eventually. A business loan, a car, a house, something. And I knew you'd look at my account and think it was there for family use. So I opened a new account. I set up a trust. And I've been quietly moving my real savings there for years. My mother stood up. You've been lying to us? The accusation was so absurd, I almost laughed. I've been protecting myself. From you. Which, as it turns out, was very necessary. Gavin's face was red now. So, you set us up? You left that money there as bait? No, I said firmly. I left enough money in that account to handle my monthly expenses and short-term savings. That $11,000 you left behind? That's what I actually keep liquid. Everything else, the real money, the money I actually care about, that's been locked away where you can't touch it. My father's voice was hard. This is manipulative, Amara. This is deceitful. This is self-defense. No, he said, his face darkening. "This is you being vindictive. You set a trap for your own family. I protected my assets from people I suspected might try to take them, and I was right." My mother was shaking her head, tears forming in her eyes. Not real tears, performance tears. "How could you think so little of us? How could you not trust your own family? You just stole $500,000 from me, Mom." My instincts were clearly sound. Gavin stood up abruptly. "So, what was your plan then? Just let us think we got the money? Wait for us to spend it and then what? Turn us in?" "Actually," I said calmly, "that's exactly what I'm going to do." The color drained from his face. "I've already contacted my lawyers," I continued. "Every transaction is traceable. Every withdrawal, every transfer. The money you took went into whose account? Gavin? Yours? Mom and Dad's? Where is it now?" Silence. "I'm guessing it's sitting in an escrow account for a house you haven't bought yet. Which means the money is still there, still trackable, still very much evidence of theft." My father's voice was low and dangerous. "You wouldn't." "I would. I am, because this isn't family, Dad. Family doesn't smile while destroying each other. Family doesn't justify theft with tradition. Family doesn't tell someone their life's work means nothing because they don't have the right anatomy to carry on a name." "Amara," my mother started, her voice breaking. "No, no more. I'm done. I'm done being the stable one who gets taken for granted. I'm done being the responsible one who's expected to sacrifice for everyone else. I'm done being told my life doesn't matter as much as Gavin's because I made different choices." I looked at each of them one more time. "The house you plan to buy? Consider it frozen. My lawyers have already flagged the transaction. The money you stole? It's being investigated. And when this is over, when the lawyers and the banks and the courts are done sorting through this disaster you created, we're done. No more family dinners, no more holiday visits, no more pretending we're something we're not." My uncle spoke up, his voice uncertain now. "Amara, let's not be hasty. Family is family. We can work this out." I turned to him. "You told me I wouldn't know how to handle that kind of money. You sat there and laughed, while they told me my life savings should go to my brother. You're an accessory to this, Uncle Dorian. You know that, right? You were here. You heard them admit it. You encouraged it. My lawyers know your name too." His face went pale. "Now hold on. Then let me show you what real responsibility looks like," I said, cutting him off. "Responsibility means protecting what you've built. It means holding people accountable. It means knowing when to walk away from people who hurt you, even if they're family." I turned and walked toward the door. "Amara," my mother called after me. "Amara, please, you're being dramatic. We can fix this." I stopped at the door, my hand on the knob. I didn't turn around. "You can't fix this, Mom. You destroyed it the moment you touched what wasn't yours." "You're going to destroy this family over money?" my father shouted. I turned then. One last time. One last look. "No, Dad, you did that. You destroyed this family when you decided Gavin's dreams were worth more than my sacrifice. When you decided a last name was more important than integrity. When you chose to betray me and then justified it with a smile." I walked out. Behind me, I heard shouting, my mother crying, Gavin yelling something about me being heartless, vindictive, cruel. I got in my car, I closed the door, and I sat there for a moment, my hands on the steering wheel, breathing. I'd just destroyed my family. Or they'd destroyed it. Or maybe it had been broken for years and we'd all just been pretending it wasn't. But as I drove away from that house, the one I'd helped save, leaving behind the people who'd raised me, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. The legal process took months. Months of documentation, depositions, bank records, and lawyers speaking in precise legal language about fiduciary responsibility and unauthorized access. The money Gavin had planned to use for his house was frozen immediately. The escrow account locked, pending investigation. The house sale fell through. His engagement, I heard through mutual acquaintances, collapsed shortly after. Elena apparently wasn't interested in marrying a man whose family drama came with potential fraud charges. My parents tried to fight it at first. They hired a lawyer who argued that as a joint account holder, my mother had every right to withdraw the funds. But their lawyer hadn't counted on me having documented everything. Every text message where they'd asked me to help with something and I had. Every email about family obligations. Every conversation where they'd implied my money should be available for family needs. I'd been saving more than just money. I'd been saving evidence. Their lawyer advised them to settle. They refused. So it went to court. I won't bore you with the details of legal proceedings. They're tedious and emotionally exhausting and exactly as terrible as you'd imagine. But I will tell you this. Sitting in a courtroom across from your parents while lawyers argue about whether they stole from you is a special kind of hell. My father wouldn't look at me. He sat there, jaw clenched, staring straight ahead like I wasn't even there. My mother cried, quietly, delicately, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, playing the role of wounded mother to perfection. Gavin didn't show up. He sent a statement through their lawyer claiming he had no knowledge of where the money came from, claiming he thought it was a gift from our parents. Plausible deniability. The judge wasn't impressed. The ruling came down 4 months after I walked out of their house. My parents were ordered to repay the full amount, plus legal fees and damages. They were found liable for unauthorized withdrawal. The joint account access my mother had was deemed as granted for emergency purposes only, not for major withdrawals without notification. They had to take out a loan to pay it back. A loan against their house. The house I'd helped them save. The irony wasn't lost on me. My Uncle Dorian disappeared from the narrative entirely after learning he could be called as a witness to their admission of taking the money. He moved back to Boston, and I haven't heard from him since. Family loyalty only extends so far when legal consequences become real. People asked me how I felt about it. Friends, coworkers, my therapist. They asked if I felt guilty, if I felt like I'd gone too far, if I regretted destroying my family over money. And here's what I told them, what I'll tell you now. They called me heartless. They told mutual friends and distant relatives that I'd ruined the family over greed, that I'd chosen money over love, that I was vindictive and cruel and everything a daughter shouldn't be. But they were the ones who destroyed it. They destroyed it the moment they touched what wasn't theirs. The moment they decided my sacrifice meant less than Gavin's desires. The moment they smiled while betraying me. This was never about the money. Not really. It was about respect. It was about being seen as a full human being whose dreams and work and sacrifice mattered just as much as my brother's. It was about standing up and saying that family doesn't give you the right to take whatever you want, that blood doesn't excuse betrayal, that love without respect is just manipulation with a prettier name. 6 months after the court ruling, I moved. I bought a house in Connecticut. Nothing extravagant. A small colonial with a yard, good bones, quiet neighbors. It's mine. Fully, completely, legally mine. No one else's name on the deed. No one else's access to anything. I furnished it slowly, carefully. Each piece chosen deliberately. Each room designed for peace. I have an office where I work from home twice a week. Large windows, natural light, built-in bookshelves. My degrees are framed on the wall. My accomplishments, visible, celebrated by me, if no one else. I have a garden now. I'd never gardened before, but I planted tomatoes and herbs and flowers. I spend weekend mornings with my hands in the dirt, watching things grow, things I planted, things I tended, things that flourish because of my care. I don't speak to my parents. They tried to reach out at first, text messages that I blocked, letters that I returned unopened. They showed up at my apartment once before I moved, but I called building security and they were escorted out. My mother wrote me an email last month. It made it through because it came from a new email address I hadn't blocked yet. She said she missed me, that she was sorry for how things went, that family should forgive each other. She didn't say she was sorry for stealing from me. She didn't acknowledge what she'd done wrong. Just that she was sorry for how things went, as if it was all just an unfortunate misunderstanding rather than a calculated betrayal. I deleted it. Gavin got married eventually. Not to Elena. Someone else. I saw the wedding photos on social media through a mutual friend's post. He looked happy. I felt nothing. Not anger, not bitterness, not even curiosity. Just nothing. My Uncle Dorian sent me a Christmas card last year. As if we were on Christmas card terms. As if he hadn't sat there and laughed while my family robbed me. I threw it away without opening it. People think cutting off your family must feel tragic. They imagine it as this gaping wound that never heals, this constant ache of missing the people who raised you. But that's not what it feels like. It feels like finally setting down weight you didn't realize you'd been carrying your entire life. It feels like breathing deeply for the first time in decades. It feels like freedom. Do I miss them? Sometimes. But not them as they are. I miss the versions of them I thought existed. The parents I believed loved me unconditionally. The brother who I thought saw me as more than a safety net. The family that existed in my imagination but never in reality. Grieving people who are still alive is strange. You can't get closure through a funeral or a eulogy. You have to create your own closure. You have to wake up each day and choose to let go of what you thought you had and accept what was actually there all along. I'm in therapy now. Have been for 8 months. My therapist is kind and patient, and she doesn't judge me when I admit that some days I feel guilty. That some days I wonder if I overreacted. That some days I think maybe I should have just let it go. Let them have the money, kept the peace. And then she reminds me, they didn't just take money, they took my trust, my security, my sense of safety in the world. They took years of sacrifice and treated it like it was nothing, like I was nothing. And she asks me, would you advise a friend to accept that treatment? Would you tell someone you cared about to let their family steal from them and smile about it? No, I wouldn't. So why would I accept it for myself? I started dating again 6 months ago. His name is Marcus. He's a high school teacher, completely outside my industry, completely removed from the finance world I live in. He teaches history and coaches basketball and has no idea what a derivative is. When I told him about my family, about what happened, he was quiet for a long time. We were sitting in my living room, on the couch I'd bought myself, in the house I'd chosen myself, drinking wine from glasses I'd picked out myself. Can I ask you something? He said finally. Of course. Do you regret it? The legal action? The estrangement? All of it? I thought about that question. Really thought about it. Because I owed him honesty. And I owed myself honesty too. No, I said. I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret demanding accountability. I don't regret walking away from people who hurt me. But I do grieve. I grieve the family I thought I had. I grieve the relationship I wish we'd had. I grieve the version of them that existed only in my hopes. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. That makes sense. Does it bother you? I asked. That I don't talk to my family? That I probably never will? He considered that, taking a sip of his wine. No. It tells me you have boundaries. It tells me you know your worth. It tells me you won't accept being treated badly just because someone shares your DNA. Honestly, those are all things I admire about you. Ugh. That conversation was 3 months ago. We're still together. Still learning each other. Still building something that might become permanent someday. But even if it doesn't, even if Marcus and I don't work out, I know something now that I didn't know before. I don't need family to validate me. I don't need parents to approve of me. I don't need a brother to respect me. I validate myself. I approve of my own choices. I respect the life I've built through discipline and sacrifice, and sheer determination. I turned 35 last month. Marcus made me dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta and a salad and a chocolate cake from a bakery near his apartment. We ate on my back porch, watching the sun set over my garden. My phone didn't ring with birthday calls from my parents. There were no cards in the mail from family members, no text from Gavin wishing me well, and I didn't miss them. I blew out the candles on my cake and made a wish. Not for reconciliation. Not for them to apologize or change or realize what they'd lost. I wished for continued peace. For my garden to flourish, for my career to grow, for my future children, if I have them, to never question whether they're valued, for the family I build, whatever form it takes, to be rooted in respect and honesty and real love, not the performative kind, not the conditional kind, the kind that doesn't smile while destroying you. My savings account, the real one, the one they never touched, currently sits at just over $800,000. I'll cross $1 million before I'm 40 at my current savings rate. The money they tried to steal and failed, I've already replaced it and then some. Because that's what they never understood. The money wasn't the point. the money was never the point. The point was what the money represented: security, freedom, the ability to give my future children opportunities I never had, the power to make choices based on what I wanted, not what I could afford. The point was that I built something from nothing, that I sacrificed and disciplined myself and created something meaningful through pure determination. And they thought they could just take it. They thought being family gave them the right. They thought I wouldn't fight back because fighting back would make me the villain. But here's what I learned through all of this. Sometimes being the villain in someone else's story means being the hero in your own. My father probably tells people I'm heartless, that I sued my own parents over money, that I destroyed the family over greed. My mother probably plays the victim, the mother whose ungrateful daughter turned on her, the woman who just tried to help her son and was punished for it. Gavin probably tells people I set them up, that I'm vindictive and manipulative and cruel. And maybe some people believe them. Maybe some people hear their version and think I'm everything they say I am. But I know the truth. I know I protected myself from people who would have destroyed me financially and emotionally, and then expected gratitude for it. I know I held them accountable when they thought family meant being above consequences. I know I chose self-respect over performing family harmony. And that's enough. That has to be enough. Last week, I was at a coffee shop near my office, working on my laptop during lunch. A woman sat down at the table next to mine with her teenage daughter. They were talking about college, about applications, about tuition costs. The mother was stressed. I could hear it in her voice. She was explaining to her daughter that they'd have to take out loans, that they'd make it work, that education was worth the debt. The daughter was crying quietly. She didn't want her mother to go into debt for her. She was talking about maybe going to community college first, transferring later, finding scholarships, working while studying. And the mother took her daughter's hand and said, "Baby, this is what the money is for. I've been saving since you were born for exactly this. So you could choose your education based on what you wanted to learn, not what we could afford. That's what parents do. We invest in our children's futures." I had to leave. I paid for my coffee, closed my laptop, and walked back to my office with tears streaming down my face. Because that's what it should have been. That's what family should look like. A mother sacrificing for her daughter's dreams. A parent investing in their child's future not because they owe them, but because they love them. Not a mother stealing from her daughter to fund her son's lifestyle. Not parents deciding one child's dreams matter more than another's sacrifice. Not family members laughing while they rob you blind. That coffee shop moment broke something open in me. Some last little piece of hope I'd been holding on to without realizing it. The hope that maybe they'd been right. Maybe I had overreacted. Maybe family really was more important than money. But seeing that mother with her daughter, seeing real love, seeing actual parental sacrifice, it confirmed what I'd known all along. What my family did wasn't love. It was abuse dressed up in family obligation. It was theft justified by tradition. It was betrayal performed with a smile. And I was right to walk away. I want to tell you something I've learned through all of this. Something that took me months of therapy and countless sleepless nights and more tears than I can count to understand. Family is not defined by blood. Family is not automatic. Family is not something you're born into and stuck with forever, regardless of how they treat you. Family is defined by respect, by care, by showing up for each other, not when it's convenient, but when it matters. By celebrating each other's successes instead of diminishing them. By protecting each other instead of exploiting each other. And when the people who share your DNA don't act like family, you're not obligated to keep calling them that. You're not required to maintain relationships that hurt you just because you're related. You're not a bad person for choosing yourself over people who would choose themselves over you every single time. I don't have my blood family anymore, but I have friends who celebrated with me when I bought my house. I have coworkers who brought me flowers when the court case resolved in my favor. I have a therapist who validates my feelings without judgment. I have Marcus, who looks at me like I'm someone worth knowing, worth choosing, worth loving. That's my family now. The one I chose. The one that chose me back. And it's enough. More than enough. It's everything. Sometimes people ask me what I'd say to my parents if I saw them again. If we ran into each other on the street or at some public place, they ask if I'd yell, if I'd cry, if I'd try to talk to them. The truth is, I don't think I'd say anything. Not because I'm still angry, not because I'm bitter or holding a grudge, but because there's nothing left to say. I said everything that mattered in that living room 6 months ago. I said I wouldn't accept being treated as less than. I said their actions had consequences. I said I was done, and I meant it. If I saw my father on the street, I'd probably just walk past. If I saw my mother in a store, I'd shop in a different aisle. If Gavin showed up somewhere I was, I'd leave. Not dramatically, not making a scene, just quietly removing myself from their presence, the way you'd step away from anything toxic. Because that's what they are now. Not family, not loved ones, just people I used to know who hurt me badly and never really apologized for it. And I don't owe them my anger anymore. I don't owe them my pain. I don't even owe them my indifference. I owe them nothing. And owing nothing feels like freedom. My garden is growing beautifully, by the way. The tomatoes came in heavy this year. I made sauce from scratch for the first time in my life. It wasn't perfect, a little too acidic, a little too chunky, but it was mine. I grew it. I made it. And that felt like something worth celebrating. I'm planning to plant bulbs this fall, tulips and daffodils that will come up in spring. Planning for a future in this house, in this life, in this version of myself that exists without them. I'm thinking about dating Marcus more seriously, about what it might mean to build something permanent with someone, about whether I want children someday and what kind of mother I'd be, whether I can trust myself not to repeat the patterns I grew up with. My therapist says that's normal, that awareness is the first step, that questioning yourself means you're already doing better than you think. I hope she's right. I'm also thinking about my future children, if I have them. About the trust fund that's still growing, still accumulating, still waiting for them. About how I'll teach them the difference between family and obligation. About how I'll make sure they know they're valued, not for what they provide, but for who they are. I think about the kind of parent I want to be. Not perfect. God knows I won't be perfect. But present, supportive. Someone who celebrates their achievements instead of diminishing them. Someone who protects their dreams instead of stealing them. Someone who never, ever makes them choose between loyalty and self-respect. It's been 8 months since I walked out of my parents' house. 8 months since I looked at the people who raised me and chose myself instead. Some days are harder than others. Some days I see a father and daughter laughing together at a restaurant, and I feel a stab of grief so sharp it takes my breath away. Some days I pass by the Mother's Day cards at the grocery store and I have to keep walking before I start crying in the middle of the aisle. But most days I wake up in my house, in my bed, in my life that I built from nothing. And I feel proud. Proud of surviving, proud of fighting back, proud of knowing my worth even when the people who should have taught me that tried to convince me I had none. I'm proud of the woman I've become. The woman who saves $500,000 by 34. The woman who protects her assets and her future. The woman who holds people accountable even when it hurts. The woman who walks away from toxicity even when it's wrapped in family ties. I'm proud of her. I'm proud of me. And that pride, that self-respect, that bone-deep knowledge that I made the right choice even when it was the hardest choice, that's worth more than $530,000. That's worth more than family approval. That's worth everything. So here's what I want you to understand. Here's the message I need you to hear if you're going through something similar. If you're being taken advantage of by family, if you're being told your sacrifice doesn't matter, if you're being guilted into giving more than you can afford to lose, family doesn't smile while destroying you. Real family doesn't take and take and take and then act offended when you have nothing left to give. Real love doesn't steal and call it support. Real love doesn't diminish your achievements to elevate someone else's. Real love doesn't make you choose between them and your own well-being. And if the people in your life are doing those things, they're not family. Not in any way that matters. Not in any way that deserves your loyalty. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to walk away from people who hurt you, even if you share DNA with them. Even if they raised you, even if walking away makes you the villain in their story. Because here's the secret they don't want you to know. Sometimes being the villain in someone else's story means being the hero in your own. Sometimes walking away isn't revenge. It's not bitterness. It's not holding a grudge. Sometimes walking away is self-respect, self-preservation, self-love. And you deserve that. You deserve to protect yourself. You deserve to choose yourself. You deserve to build a life that doesn't include people who treat you as less than. I didn't lose $530,000 that day in my parents' living room. I know it looked like I did. I know that's what they thought, what they wanted, what they believed they'd taken from me. But they didn't take my money. They didn't take my future. They didn't take my dreams. What I lost that day was something far more valuable and far less tangible. I lost the illusion that blood means loyalty. I lost the belief that family means unconditional love. I lost the hope that the people who raised me would ever see me as worthy of the same investment, the same sacrifice, the same celebration they gave my brother. And you know what? Losing those illusions was worth every dollar. Because now I see clearly. Now I know the truth. Now I can build my life on reality instead of hope, on self-respect instead of family obligation, on chosen connections instead of biological accidents. Now I'm free. Free from waiting for approval that would never come. Free from believing I had to earn love through sacrifice. Free from the weight of family expectations that were never about my happiness, only about my compliance. And freedom? Real freedom? The kind that comes from knowing your worth and protecting it fiercely? That's priceless. So if you're watching this and you're going through something similar, if your family is taking advantage of you, if you're being manipulated in the name of love, if you're being told you're selfish for having boundaries or ungrateful for wanting respect, I see you. I believe you. And I'm telling you right now, you're not wrong. You're not wrong for protecting yourself. You're not wrong for demanding accountability. You're not wrong for walking away from people who hurt you. You're not heartless. You're not cruel. You're not overreacting. You're surviving. You're setting boundaries. You're choosing yourself. And that's not just okay. That's necessary. That's healthy. That's exactly what you should be doing. Don't let them make you feel guilty for it. Don't let them convince you that family means accepting abuse. Don't let them smile while they destroy you and then act shocked when you refuse to pretend everything is fine. You deserve better. You deserve respect. You deserve love that doesn't come with conditions and costs and constant sacrifice. And if the people who share your blood can't give you that, then they don't deserve access to your life, your resources, or your heart. Walk away. Protect yourself. Build the life you deserve. And don't look back. My name is Amara Whitfield. I'm 35 years old, and last year, my parents tried to steal $530,000 from me. They thought they'd won. They thought they'd outsmarted me. They thought family loyalty meant I'd let it go. They were wrong. I fought back. I held them accountable. I walked away. And I'm not sorry, not even a little bit. Because the life I'm building now, the peace I'm finding now, the freedom I'm experiencing now, it's worth more than any amount of money. It's worth more than their approval. It's worth more than family harmony built on my sacrifice. It's worth everything. And so am I. So are you. Remember that. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me share the most painful and most powerful experience of my life with you. If this resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Have you experienced anything similar? How did you handle it? I want to know I'm not alone, and I want you to know you're not alone either. We're survivors. We're warriors. We're people who chose ourselves when everyone else expected us to keep sacrificing. And we're going to be okay. Better than okay. We're going to be free.